weekend, John Wick 4 dropped in theaters, so today we're going to stop and rank all 4 John Wick films from the least best to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 4 John Wick films. My list is not the right list. It's just my list, and I would love to see yours. One quick announcement before we get started. Next weekend, I'm going to be at MegaCon with Cody Leach, John Flickinger, Austin Burke, 3C Films, as well as on our stage will be Perry Nemiroff and Coy Jandro. All throughout the weekend, we're going to be leading multiple panels, meet and greets, all that fun stuff. If you love the kind of movie YouTube space, you've got to be there at MegaCon in Orlando next weekend. And let's get started. Coming in least best place is John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. And to be perfectly clear, I think that this is a great action movie with fantastic choreography and stunt work, but also the weakest story of the entire franchise. The movie plays essentially like a 2-hour-long chase movie, where by the time you get to the end of it, it doesn't feel like the plot has actually progressed anywhere forward. We're at the same place at the end that we were at the beginning, and in those 2 hours, we are treated to some of the best action stunt work that Hollywood has ever provided. And that's obviously what this franchise does so well. The director himself is a stuntman, making movies with his stuntmen buddies and trying to find new creative things to do with stunt work as well as current technology. And you just see this all throughout the entire film, where there's car chase or motorcycle chases where Keanu Reeves is on a motorcycle sword fighting with people. You can't actually have Keanu Reeves do that, but clearly Keanu Reeves is fighting with a sword. They're on something, but you don't know what tech they're using to do that. There's horses kicking people in the face after they turn a corner and then they hit something behind them. You can't actually have a horse kick someone in the face. You don't know how they did this thing, but you're wowed by it, and the blend of stunt work, VFX, whatever's going on is seamless to create wow-inducing moments. And the movie keeps finding ways to deliver new environments, new props, new stunt works, new things for John Wick to do, new creative ways to kill people, or bring Halle Berry into the mix. So you literally have dogs doing fight choreography to take people out. So it's just all sorts of awesome on the action level. But on the story level, it felt like they didn't have much to offer here. At the beginning of the movie, John Wick is on the run from a group of assassins in the high table. At the end of the movie, John Wick is on the run from a group of assassins and the high table. And not much of actual significance happened in the middle here, besides the ultimate betrayal from Winston in the final moments. But now that we've seen John Wick 4, we also kind of know that's undone almost immediately, which kind of renders even the things in this film that mattered fairly pointless. Adding to that, one of the appeals of this franchise is the cool world building. Feels a little bit like this movie just got a bit lost in that, where they're trying to come up with more mysterious, weird things. And so you literally have like John Wick walking into a desert until he passes out and he shows up in a tent with the elder. And it's like, we've gone too far. This is no longer fun, cool world building that's intriguing. This is just weird stuff. There's no possible practical reason this guy would live out in this desert like this. You're just trying to do trippy, weird stuff, and this isn't working for me. So, still great action movie. I think this is where I think they realize, hey, we need to focus our story. We need to have a definitive end to our movies, not just have cliffhangers, and maybe dial back the weirdness of our world building, but incredible action. That's what I wanted out of this movie. That's what it gave me. Still, this is like a B+ for me, so I really mean it when I say least best of the best. In third place, John Wick Chapter 2. Coming off the first film, the big question in my mind is, what are you going to do to motivate John Wick to continue going into action and being back? And this movie kind of avoided that issue by doubling down on the other thing that made the first movie so good, the world building. If the first film is kind of this self-contained revenge story with an interesting world around it, This movie just opens up that world, so we get to explore this world of assassins, all the rules that tie into it. And so instead of trying to compete with the first film and outdo it, it just doubles down on one of the other interesting things in that first film. And that's kind of what made this movie work for me. Once again, we're getting just phenomenal, cool set pieces right out of the gate. It kicks off with John Wick rescuing his car, and it's just filled with these little stunts of him falling out of a car, hitting people with the car, driving around with the door open. That just, it's cool. It's visceral. It's long takes. You're seeing everything play out. It's crystal clear. There's no question as to what they're doing in these action sequences. And it only kind of gets more thrilling from there. I would say that this is probably the movie with the most pacing issues. It kicks off with the great car rescue, and then it takes a while to get going. There's a lot of kind of putting the pieces in place before it goes into motion. And along those same lines, the beginning of this movie felt a little bit too much like it was trying to remind us of the first film. And so a guy's like, remember, he killed someone with a pencil.
He once killed 3 men in a bar.
A pencil. I know, I've heard the story,
With a
sir.
fucking pencil!
Remember, he's John Wick, the Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. He did an impossible task. So a little bit of this stuff of like, right, I've seen the first movie. You don't have to keep reminding me of the first film. So a little bit of that stuff. But once again, beyond that, you're getting cool action set pieces and just this very lived in, fleshed out world that has a distinct look to it. That's one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough because it's so famous for the fight choreography. Just stylistically, everything has vibrant colors, cool lighting. Everything is in these like fancy locations with cool shots of what he's walking up to, how it's framed. They're shot cool, even beyond just having cool fight choreography and cool looking people. Everything about these movies is designed to give off this cool aesthetic. And you really get that in this film as we start the globe-trotting aspect of the franchise. Our runner-up, John Wick. And honestly, different day of the week, this one might be on top. All 4 films are kind of like this to me. All of them top-notch action films. None of them totally a masterpiece, though. While the franchise as a whole, I think, is almost better than each of the individual films in a certain sense. But when it comes to the original John Wick, on paper, it's a really dumb version of a cliche plotline. They killed his dog and stole his car. Now he's out for revenge. But this is a perfect example of how excellent execution and great world building can elevate even the silliest of plot lines. Like, I remember when they first announced this film and the first trailer came out just weeks before the movie was released, and all of us were like, really? Like, a movie about Keanu Reeves avenging his dead dog? But also, it actually looks like it might be really good. Just we're fascinated by this concept. And then we saw the movie, and it was awesome. And all of that boiled down to the execution with the action, the world building, the characters, the dialogue. All of it was so much better than it had any right to be. So, of course, it's the premium action franchise from Hollywood in the last 10 years. So you got to talk about the action. And right out of the gate, it had a distinct style of how it was choreographed as well as how it was shot. With the wide shots, long takes, you could see everything happening. But also the way that it had John Wick combining hand-to-hand combat, punches and kicks with throws and like twisting arms to spin people to the ground while also having a gun in the mix. It was just like this. It integrated all these different elements in an interesting way that we hadn't really seen something like that before. And then the thing that none of us were really expecting was how good the world building was going to be with this idea of the Continental, this world of assassins, all these rules that was like, this is kind of fascinating. You want to learn more about it, and just it had intrigue just built into the entire formula. And then you also had just a certain quirkiness to the nature of the characters. All of these little moments where, you know, when our main villain is introduced, he calls up John Leguizamo. He's like, hey, why did you hit my son?
Because he stole John Wick's car, sir, and killed his dog.
He stole John Wick's car. Oh. Hangs up the phone. There's all these little fun moments of dialogue and the way that they play out that are memorable. You remember them talking about with a pencil. Just, you hear that, you remember it. Even the way that John Wick interacts with the police officer that comes to his house makes the world seem more interesting.
You working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
Oh, well.
And that's kind of like, how on earth did a movie about John Wick avenging his dead dog become such a big deal? Because they executed it right and made a cool film with great looking stuff. Just like this primal, simplistic revenge story right there in the mix. Why is it not number one? I think when it comes to like the pacing and the flow of the story, feels like the movie kind of runs out of steam about 2/3 of the way before it's done. Because we want to see the guy that killed John Wick's dog taken out. And that happens, and there's still 30 minutes left in the film, in which case he's like battling the dad, and it's just not as interesting. Like literally the final fight in this movie is John Wick battling an old, out of shape man. Not quite as exciting as everything else that came before it. So I don't think it ends nearly as strongly as it begins. That's the reason for me why this one isn't on top, because otherwise it has the most focused story with the most like emotion to it, with the great world building, fantastic introduction to this world, style of action. But coming in first place for me is going to be John Wick Chapter 4, at least as of today. And once again, this is a great franchise, which means all the movies are very close together. As of right now, I feel like this is the movie that pulls the best elements from all of the films without making any big mistakes that overall hurt my experience with the film. So it has the just incredible jaw-dropping choreography of especially part 3, where it does a bunch of stuff where you're going, I do not know how they did that and how they shot that. In particular, as you move into the last 40 minutes, where there's a whole 10-minute long fight scene in the middle of traffic where there's people touching items while fighting, and then someone gets hit by a car, and it's all in one shot. And so they do everything possible to hide the tricks of the filmmaking. The next sequence after that, they do these long takes that start up close, and then it pulls up above while John Wick is running around with a dragon breath shotgun, setting people on fire. And the shot goes for a 30 seconds, a minute, while people are on fire. You're going, you can't set people on fire and leave them like that. Just, you don't know how they pulled all of this stuff off. And then you have this sequence where John Wick and other people keep falling down hundreds of stairs, concrete looking stairs. There's in their long shots, once again, with people interacting with multiple items, there's no way to easily hide the trickery that's going on. So you're just wowed by it. So the craziest, awesomest action of the entire franchise, in a franchise that only has had awesome, crazy action. It's the best out of all of them with the action. But then it gets to a more focused story with some emotional connection to it, like the first one. It's not quite as strong emotionally as the first one. You can't do that without, repeating yourself, having something as clear as, you killed my dog, I'm going to get revenge. But it still has some of that with what kind of goes down with the Continental at the beginning, the concierge, other things that kind of happen that make you hate Pennywise as our main villain. He becomes the face of the table that we want to see taken out. So you have that clear, focused story with the awesome action and some of our best side characters that we've had in these films. Of kind of the evil henchman final foe, Donnie Yen is the best one that we've gotten yet, where they give him an actual backstory. He's, of course, Donnie Yen, so he's incredible in the action scenes, but they find a way to have him have this distinct look to the way that he's fighting because he's blind. And so he has emotional stakes for his character, clear motivation for why his character is doing what he's doing, despite the fact that he does not want to kill any of these people. And pulls all that together. Other fun additions in here with Scott Adkins or all the Pennywise himself, just all of them great side characters with the fun world building without getting lost in the weeds. Kind of like the third one got a little wacky for me. Amazing action. I would say it's too long. That's where I debated which one comes out on top, because I think this movie 20, 30 minutes too long. All of it's awesome. The pacing is fine, but it's just a movie that's like, there's too much in here. There's no reason for this movie to be this long, except you wanted to throw everything in there. Everything's cool. Doesn't mean everything needs to be in the movie or makes the movie more effective by being nearly 3 hours long. Otherwise, an awesome, fantastic action film. But honestly, I feel like every single one of these movies is probably the best action film of the year that it came out. This studio, this team of people, they are the best stunt guys working in Hollywood right now. They keep attracting the best stunt teams so they can keep delivering just these incredible, awesome set pieces, action spectacle. They are pushing the action genre forward with what they're doing. And that's cool that we're having a franchise like that. So different day of the week, a different movie could come out on top. They're all awesome. I love all of them. This is a fantastic franchise. But as of today, this new one that just came out, I think has the best of all of the John Wick films in one awesome package. So it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've done a ton of rankings of action movies. You can check that out right over there in that playlist. I also did a 31 on 31 where we ranked 31 of the best action films of all time. You can check that out right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.